Hi, this is Rachel from Ray K Books, and today I'm going to be interviewing Jenny Hubbard, who is the author of And We Stay. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Rachel.
Thank
Hello,
you for
viewer.
coming. So I guess we're going to go into the first question, and
Okay.
that is, what inspired you to write your first book?
Well, this is my second book. My first book, Paper Covers Rock, which came out in 2011, was inspired by my 10 years of teaching at a boys' boarding school. This book, which came out in January of 2014, was really inspired, although that's not the word I want to use, was brought on by the epidemic of school shootings.
Can you please give us a synopsis of the book?
The
I forgot
synopsis of the
that.
book,
Yeah.
sure. That's always such a hard question because for me it's so, anyway, I'll try.
Okay.
Okay, at the beginning of the book, a boy who's a senior in high school walks into his public school with a gun and threatens his girlfriend with it. He does not shoot anyone. He doesn't shoot her, but he ends up, there goes my dog, sorry. He ends up killing himself, and his girlfriend emerges from the.
I can't really hear you. Are you there?
Is that better?
Yep, that's much better.
Okay. So anyway, it's a book about the aftermath of being an innocent bystander to a tragedy. And my heroine, Emily Beam, is sent to a girls' school up in Amherst, Massachusetts, way far away from where she lives, and becomes, I guess, nurtured by this all-female community in which she discovers that she's got a lot of talent as a poet and develops a kinship with Emily Dickinson, who grew up in Amherst, Massachusetts.
So for this book, you said not really inspired, but you came up with the idea because of the school shootings, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit, did you do any research on school shootings when you were writing this book?
That's a good question. I really didn't. I have a friend who was a principal at a school, and something like this happened. He's retired now, to him, so I basically just talked to teachers, students from public schools where I feel like this is more likely to happen than in a private school, which is my experience as a teacher. But it was pretty easy to go back in my mind to when I was a high school student at the public school in Salisbury, North Carolina, and picturing this happening. It's not hard to picture when it's all over the news, but so often the news doesn't report the aftermath, and that's what I wanted to focus on.
So what do you think? What do you think is should happen now in schools in order to prevent school shootings?
Oh boy. I think there needs, as far as what's happening in the schools, I don't know that there's a whole lot they can do about it other than what they're doing, which is metal detectors, and that sort of thing. I feel like it really needs to start with the gun laws in our country, and really revisiting and completely overhauling those, and also with our mental health system.
So whenever school shootings happen, you always blame two people. It's like there's like sides. They blame who is doing the shooting, and they
Right.
blame the Parents.
Uh-huh.
So should they be blaming the parents, do you think, or is it all the student?
I think it depends on the situation. In my book, for example, the parents, there's no way that they could be blamed for this. I mean, this is sort of an isolated freak incident, and I set the book in 1995 so that it would be pre-Columbine, which was the first hugely, you know, discussed and covered school shooting that we had in 1999. So, gosh, I mean, in that, I don't think that that's such a general question that I even hesitate to um, say anything other than I think it needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
Right. And then let's move on to her in private school. You said that you had, were you a private school teacher or did you go to a private school?
I taught at a boys' private school for 10 years.
And so some of that aspect of your life also got into the book, you think? Like what happened there?
Uh, right. Well, I did go to a private women's college, which I think more um, is more of an influence in the book than my teaching experience at the boys' school. That was my first book. I'm sort of done with that. I'm done with those guys. But what I found when I went off to college and I was a sheltered child as an 18-year-old was that there were a lot of girls and women who were very nurturing toward one another. It wasn't a sort of mean girls scenario at all. It was let's help each other, let's support each other. And so in that way, I think the school in Amway Stay is very much like the school where I went to college. Also, I feel like in our society, traditionally, historically, men have caused the destruction and women have had to pick up the pieces. You know, all the way back. Civil War, which is the time that Emily Dickinson lived through. Anyway, I wanted this to be a world where women took care of women and the men were completely on the periphery.
So this is kind of like an empowering book, like for women.
Yes, it is.
Is there a message in your novel that you want readers to grasp?
Well, for teen readers, I'd like them to come away with the fact that there are adults aren't enemies. They are there to lend a helping hand, and if an adult reaches that hand out, I feel like I hope the book is saying that the hand is there to be taken. You know, if someone reaches out, accept their help and advice. I also want anyone who's been through any kind of personal tragedy to realize that there is a silver lining on the other side of it. There is hope. Earlier drafts of this book were very dark, and after reading one of the drafts, I thought, why would anybody ever want to read this? I mean, there's nothing there to cling to, and so through this one girl's way through, I want to show that it's possible to get on the other side, to the other side.
What if you had to choose, which writer would you consider a mentor?
Young adult writers, I would say Judy Blume. Outside of the young adult realm, I would say Alice Munro. That another young adult writer I really admire is Patricia McCormick. Both Patricia McCormick and Judy Blume write about very real life situations. I will never, I can tell you, write a book about vampires or wizards or zombies. That's just not my scene. And so that it's nice to have these other writers who have paved the way, like S.E. Hinton. She's one too. And I consider myself a more realistic fiction type of novelist.
So give us an insight to your main character. What does she do that's so special?
She writes, she uses writing, she uses the writing of poetry as a way to order the chaos of her mind and her heart. I think a lot of teens find life pretty chaotic. I mean, the life of the mind. And there are various ways, you know, a lot of ways to cope with that. Emily Beam, my protagonist, does it with a pen and paper. And she's very honest with herself, but not at first. She tries to cover up her guilt, and then at some point she knows that she understands that, okay, I'm going to have to be honest with myself to get past this. So anyway, honesty, her honesty on the page is a big tool.
So this is contemporary.
Yes.
What draws you to this genre?
I know that when I was a teenager, these were the sort of books that resonated with me. These were the kind of realistic stories of teenagers who weren't necessarily special or gifted, who were just normal kids. And to know that there's somebody out there like you who is going through the same thing is so comforting. You think you're the only person feeling these things and wondering these things, and when you read about a character in a book who's thought the same things you've thought, it's pretty sweet.
And how did you come up with the title of your book? Because And We Stay doesn't really convey this is a book about a school shooting and getting over it.
Right. And you know, it really isn't about the school shooting. It's about finding a way to stay after the bad thing has happened. And it's a line from an Emily Dickinson poem that is featured in the book. And originally the book was titled something else, but my editor wanted to change it because the original title was Exit, Little Sister, and she thought that sounded too much like middle grade fiction. And We Stay being a line from this poem that is important to my character Emily Beam seemed to work better for my publisher. I listen to them on that stuff. They know way more about it than I do. But there seem to be a lot of books with "we" in the title lately. We Are the Goldens, We Were Liars. I don't know why that's happening all of a sudden, but it's interesting.
And what actress would you like to see playing the lead character from And We Stay?
Yes. Do you know her? I'm not even sure how to say her first name. I think it's Saoirse Ronan. She's Irish.
I do not know.
You spell her first name Saoirse.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's who I see.
What was she in?
She was in The Lovely Bones.
Oh yeah, yeah, her, the blonde.
Blonde, yeah.
Yeah, she was also in The Host and other things. Yeah,
Yes,
I know
yes.
who you're talking about now. She's a really great actress.
Yes, she is.
So now we're going to play a game called Would
Okay.
You Rather. And what Would You Rather is, if you don't know, is I would say to Jenny, would you rather eat apples or oranges for the rest of your life?
Uh-huh.
And then Jenny will have to say either apples or oranges.
Okay.
So this is literature edition. So the first one is, would you rather fight next to Hermione from Harry Potter or Katniss from the Hunger Games?
Katniss.
Would you rather read a book that is written poorly but has an excellent story, or read one with weak content but is written well?
Written well, definitely.
Who would you rather have as a child, Harry Potter or Hermione Granger?
Oh, Harry Potter.
Would you rather write novels where all of the characters are women or all men for the rest of your writing career?
Well, seeing as I've written both of those, I'm going to go with women.
Would you rather only write your books in trilogies or standalones for the rest of your writing career?
Standalones.
Would you rather write a book without using conjunctions or have every sentence of your book begin with one?
Ooh, have every sentence begin with one.
Would you rather write a plot twist you hated or write a character you hated?
A character I hated.
Would you rather a super successful movie be made from one of your books or a long-lasting television series?
Oh, great question.
That's what we do here. Ask me a question.
I'm going to go with the movie.
And then the last one is, would you rather critics rip your book apart publicly or never talk about it at all?
Ooh. Hmm. Oh, let's go with the rip it apart publicly. Why not?
And that concludes our Would You Rather game. Yay! Good job. High five. So, question 10 about critics. Do you read bad reviews of your book?
Well, to be honest, I haven't read any bad reviews of either one of my books. They've been pretty good. But I do not read reviews on Goodreads. So I'm sure there are plenty of bad ones there if I wanted to find some.
So you only read them on Amazon?
I read the ones that my publicists and editors send me, you know, from School Library Journal, Hornbook, Kirkus, that sort of the publications where I feel like the writers have read a lot, know what they're doing, the thing that makes me a little uncomfortable with Goodreads is that, but this is what it's for, is that people who may not even have, I better be careful here. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I like to read reviews that my editor and publicist send me.
And then there's this debate on Goodreads going on right now, and it's an author versus reviewer debate on the Goodreads site. And basically what's happening is reviewers are reviewing books, and authors, if they don't like the review, comment on that review, and then a whole war starts.
Oh, no.
Yes. So do you believe that even if it's a good review, authors should comment on those reviews, or should authors just stay away?
They should stay away, I think, because once the book is done and it's out, I don't really feel like the author should, the author's not always going to be around to defend the book, right? Is Nathaniel Hawthorne still around to defend Scarlet Letter? I think once it's out there, and you just keep your mouth shut as an author.
And then, how do you get through writer's block?
I also write plays. And so when I get stuck on a book that I'm working on, I start working on a play that I'm working on. And when I get stuck on the play, I come back to the book. And that so far has worked well for me. I also take my dog on walks around the neighborhood. And I also, if I really get stuck and the book's not going well, I start it over in a different point of view and a different character's voice, which usually blows things wide open, and that works wonders for me. So that's part of my process.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
My younger self. Well, because I'm 49, my younger self, I guess as a writer starting out, and when I was 21 or 22, I liked to call myself a writer, but I didn't really do any writing, and I like to, like a lot of young writers, just finish it and not revisit it. And I think that I would like to tell my younger self to have a little more perseverance, a little more elbow grease, and work harder on revising, which now is my favorite part of the process. The first draft is very, very hard for me now, but the fun part is getting everything to work together like a neatly woven basket.
And what's your favorite book turned movie?
Book to a movie? Is that what you said?
Yep.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
And if you could have been the original author of any book, what would it have been and why?
Ooh, great question. Ooh, ah, why? I can think of a lot. I just can't think of why I would want to. I think maybe Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, because I would have liked to have experienced that time period, not lived in it, just gone back and experienced it. And I would have liked to have been able to nail a character as she does it in a sentence. She can tell you everything you need to know about a character in one sentence. It's brilliant.
And I already asked that question. I was about to say the same question. Let's do another one.
Okay.
How do you relax?
How do I relax? I garden. I spend time in my garden. I've just discovered that in the past couple of years. Gardening. It's lovely. I think a lot of writers like to garden because you can edit your garden the way that you edit a book. You can dig up a plant, put it over here, and it looks better. And it's it really is similar in those ways. And you watch things grow from what you started. It's neat.
And what's the easiest and the hardest thing about writing?
The hardest thing for me is plot. I can write characters all day long. That's easy. Getting behind the psychology of somebody, that might be the easiest thing for me. Plot and keeping it fast-paced and logical is not my forte. My husband is a high school math teacher, and he'll sometimes read, part of my book and say that just doesn't compute. I mean, that it didn't follow. That's not logical, and I'm really grateful for that I have him as a reader.
So, do you work to an outline or a plot, or do you prefer to just see where an idea takes you?
I've done both. I learned this little trick from John Irving, who writes the last page first, and then he goes back to the beginning and tells the story so that it leads up to that very last page, which really works well for me. I flounder sometimes if I don't have the ending set. I don't need to know the middle. I just need to know the ending. What I want the character to have come through.
What's a genre that you will never write in, and what's a genre that you want to start writing in?
Ooh, I will never write in graphic novels. I would love to write mysteries.
And I just had a question and I just lost it, so I guess I'll go with another one. Okay, so do you have anything specific that you want to say to your readers?
I just want to thank them for reading not only my books but other books. Reading is such an important part of life for me and for all my people, my friends, and it just worries me to no end that children do not grow up reading. So if there are parents out there who are listening, read to your child, take them to the library. They'll be better people for it. They'll develop empathy genes, and the world needs a lot of those.
Do you have any advice for aspiring writers?
Yes, I do. I would not only encourage them to read, but also to write in different styles. If there's a writer they particularly like, mimic that style for a bit, and then try another one. And eventually, I think their own style will come out of that. I think that revising, revisiting, put the book away or the story away for a month, come back to it, and work on it again.
And so we're going to be playing our second game.
Okay.
And that game is called Fill in the Blank with the First Word That Pops into Your Head. And yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. But if you do need explaining, basically what I'm going to say is a sentence, and when I say blank, you have to say the first word that pops into your head, even if it's like weird. You have to say.
Weird I can do.
Okay, so the first one, when I first sit down to write, I blank.
I check my email.
When I write, I have to have blank.
My dog near me.
When creating a new character, I want them to have blank.
Intelligence.
All great mysteries have to have blank.
Plot twists.
I don't like it when a book has blank.
Bad writing.
When I read a bad review of my book, I blank.
I go on the defense.
My character reaches out of the pages, takes my hand, and I blank.
I follow her into the woods.
And that concludes our game. Whee!
Thanks, Rachel.
Yes, thank you for playing. And that actually concludes our interview. So right now I'm going to be talking about the giveaway. Jenny here is going to be giving away her copy of And We Stay. This is for USA and Canada only. Sorry, international peeps, maybe next time. And this ends the 22nd, so next Sunday. And what you have to do is this live chat will become a YouTube video. And when it becomes a YouTube video, you need to comment on that video. And the second thing you have to do, this is optional because not everybody has a Twitter, is to follow Jenny on Twitter. And I will put her Twitter name in the description. And if you do follow her, then comment with your username so I can verify the entry. And that's all you need to do. Thank you again, Jenny. I had a great time talking to you.
Thanks, Rachel. I enjoyed it. Good luck in New York. Good
Thank
place
you.
to be. Bye-bye.
Bye.